Hi, everyone, and welcome to JSTOR for Research 2024 update. This webinar is appropriate for librarians, researchers, and teaching faculty. This is the final webinar in a series of 3 JSTOR updates webinars. If you missed the first 2 in this year's series, which were about the JSTOR admin site and about using images on JSTOR, you can view the recordings online. We are sharing the link right now in your question box where you can sign up to see those recordings, and you can also share this information with your colleagues across campus. Now let's first get started with some introductions. My name is Elizabeth Behrens, and I am a product education lead on the JSTOR Partner and User Education team at Ithaca. I am joined today by Dana Howard, Senior Manager on the Partner and User Education team. We are also joined by Nicole Green, who is a specialist on the Partner and User Support team. Nicole will be joining us later for the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Before I hand it off to Dana, I want to let you know that this presentation is being recorded, and besides the recording being available on the JSTOR Updates page, it will be available on YouTube. When we post it, we will include a linked table of contents in the description beneath the video, where you can jump ahead to any relevant section of the webinar. All attendees will also receive the recording as a GoToMeeting link in a follow-up email within a week. After you exit the webinar today, a survey will appear on your screen, and we would appreciate all feedback you can share with us. If you don't have time to answer the survey immediately, it will also be emailed to you in about an hour, along with a list of the links we show you today. So feel free to not be distracted by those links because we'll be sending you a list shortly after the webinar. We hope that you will use the survey to share how these webinars are useful for your work. And please also let us know what topics you would like to see covered in more depth and any other thoughts you may have about our webinars. We do read every comment and we use them to shape our future work. Now I will go ahead and pass the microphone over to Dana.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We're going to turn our cameras off so that you can hopefully see the full screen. And let's get started. JSTOR is a repository that is part of a larger not-for-profit organization called Ithaca. I'm sorry, lost my notes. Because of our focus on both preservation and access, we've added primary source collections to the JSTOR platform, providing users with a single resource for text, images, and recently audio and video content. Here's our agenda. First, let me take a minute and explain the sources of the content you will find on JSTOR. Then I'll go over access methods so that you will know how to access your content on JSTOR. Not only how to access your content on JSTOR, but how to direct your students. After that, let's cover methods of searching and saving, both primary and secondary source content, and using your workspace to store and work with what you find on JSTOR, what you can upload yourself, and the way to share and or present content you curate. As I do this, I will point out what features are recent updates so that you can leave this webinar knowing what is new, but also some key features that help people with research in general. After that, we'll go over the resources available to you, your colleagues, and students. Our goal is to give you the key things you need to know to going into your academic term and point out where to find more information to dig deeper. First, let's talk about the content on JSTOR. JSTOR is an ecosystem of content. It was once a repository only for journals, and it continues to be one, going back to Volume 1, Issue 1 of each title. After several years of adding other secondary source content like books and research reports, and also primary source collections to the JSTOR platform, early in 2021, images were added to JSTOR. In 2023, audio, video, and panorama images were added. Users have seamless access not only to the content licensed by their library, but to thousands of open primary and secondary sources on JSTOR. You will see a breakdown of the content in a search by type in the Refine Results sidebar after any search. Turning first to secondary source content, you can see journal articles in your search results, then each chapter from scholarly monographs, and finally, scholarly research reports that are returned in your search results. This rounds out the academic offerings with timely content from nearly 200 think tanks, institutes from around the world. Primary source collections currently available on JSTOR are both multidisciplinary and discipline-specific. These content types are defined further on the support side, but in general, these collections include images of 3D models and spatial data, images of specimens, works of art and architecture, archival serials, pamphlets, manuscripts, letters and postcards, government documents, and select monographs. Audio and video content includes oral histories, speeches, conference proceedings, and more. This content provided by contributors worldwide and is discoverable when searching JSTOR or browsing collections. Audio and video content on JSTOR continues to grow. Because auto-generated transcripts are searchable as metadata, audio and video files will be surfaced in your search results. Additionally, when you view one of these items on JSTOR, you can see the transcript. And now, if a contributor chooses, a thumbnail image can be added to the metadata to help users discern more about the content. Seeing transcripts so readily available can help users determine the initial value of the content for their research without needing to watch or listen to the entire recording. Another update this year is that we've completed the transition of ArtStore to JSTOR. ArtStore on JSTOR is the new name for the ArtStore collections that were previously available on a standalone platform. We completed that transition of these collections to the JSTOR platform and retired the ArtStore platform August 1st. In addition, there is quite a lot of image content contributed by different institutions, archives, and special collections, either just to their own users on JSTOR or to JSTOR users in general. And finally, you can now upload your own images that you can share with colleagues or students. I will show you how that can be done when I demonstrate the JSTOR Workspace. The value of all this is that it is in one place, side by side with related scholarship. Now let's talk a little bit about access. Logging in with your personal account. If you are a JSTOR user new to using the workspace to save and curate your content, you may have never created a personal account. Even if you never want to save and share content with your workspace, the personal account has the benefit of easing access to JSTOR. Once you're authenticated to your institution, you can just use your personal username and password to access JSTOR from anywhere. An added benefit for adjunct instructors or visiting scholars is that you can be authenticated through more than one institution. This means that you can share folders or reading and study material to students at both institutions, as long as the same content is licensed by both. Of course, any open ArtStore or other open content will, of course, show up in both for both sets of students. When I demonstrate in a minute, I will log in and you can see the single sign-on options through Google and Microsoft. If you log in from on campus or through your library's login page, you will automatically be authenticated or paired to your institution. After that, you have remote access that lasts 365 days, and it renews each time you log in from on campus. In fact, if you logged into the ArtStore platform in the last year, you can just go to jstor.org and log in from anywhere. Your login is already paired. These personal accounts are free to you and your students. They function as personal repositories of shared content. So your students can show you their research sources and you can show them your work. Finally, you can log in on any type of device. Another update. The Canvas LMS integration allows instructors to add a link to the JSTOR homepage to Canvas course navigation for seamless access to this content your institution subscribes to. When users follow the link, they will be automatically authenticated without additional login requirements. Contact your librarian administrator to suggest this integration. The benefit for your students is that they can get to the content your institution subscribes to without any extra steps to stumble over. We're excited about this step in the process of JSTOR integrating with Canvas. Later in this webinar, I will show you how you can also share reading lists in your workspace to your students through your learning management system. Elizabeth is putting a link to more information from our support site in the question box if you'd like to share that with your librarian. And again, these links will be available to you in our follow-up email. You'll know you're logged in when you see the name of your school or institution at the top of the page. That's number 1 on this slide. And your own name below that. That's number 2. In this section, we'll cover some key features that, although not new to JSTOR, are helpful for you and your students to know about. First, users can search by category directly from the search bar. This is one way to immediately limit your search results. So in this case, I'm only looking for content with the name Angelou in the title. This technique is useful if you know what you're looking for and want to save a lot of time that might be involved in refining results. When typing a search term into a search bar, you will find options to limit your search by several different criteria: author, title, publication name, or searching just for images. Another handy tool I want to point out are the snippets that appear below the item metadata in your results. Those snippets highlight where your keywords fit in the text of your results and can help you learn the various contexts of your results. Importantly for novice researchers, looking at the words around their keywords can help them refine their search, since they often reveal terms that could help them build a better search query. This is a great thing to point out to students who might not be clear on the terminology that could save them a lot of time in their research. The Refine Results sidebar is my all-time favorite tool on JSTOR. It can help you gradually narrow the scope of your search, depending on results. With this tool, a broad search is not so intimidating and is actually kind of fun to explore. I find this especially valuable when I'm at the start of a project and have not yet really sussed out my research question, and I don't want to miss anything. This can help me develop a better research question because it exposes me to a wide range of content. I'll demonstrate this process in a minute. Okay, now in this section, I want to cover some updates to the search experience. Since we know sometimes search results can get overwhelming, we have provided we have improved the experience of refining results using the sidebar in 2 very useful ways. 1, the bar can be explored separately from the search results, meaning that you can scroll down it without moving the content of your results, and you can scroll through the results without moving the content of your search bar. Also, refinement filters can be removed at the top of the page, which is handy when you want to go back a step or maybe 2 steps in your refinement process. Overall, both these improvements facilitate a browsing experience within your search process. You can also now save items from your search results in bulk or one at a time. This also facilitates browsing, letting you keep track of content related to your research without having to open the item and keep a bunch of tabs of potential reading going. Now you can go further down that particular avenue of exploration, some might call it a rabbit hole, later on, and stay on task in the moment. Now let's look at individual item pages. Here we're in an article on ancient graffiti. We have now accordioned the information about the item on the left side of the screen. Opening different sections allows you to focus on different aspects of the information about the item. Here you can see that I've opened Cited By. The Cited By section includes other items on JSTOR where the authors have cited this item. It is incredibly handy as it allows you to dive into the academic conversation happening about a subject. Another section you can explore is related text. This is our suggestion for text that may be similar to the item. The items presented here are the product of analysis and of metadata that is conceptually similar. It can cover content to explore. I can cover content simply by clicking on any of these links. These are hot links to other content I would like to explore. We also want to give you a brief update on a new interactive research tool still in a beta program. We're sharing how you can sign up to be a beta user of this program if you would like. The tool helps you evaluate the text being viewed and suggests related content. I won't be demonstrating this today, but if you're interested in learning more, Elizabeth is putting 2 links for you in the question box. One is to our support page information on this beta tool, and the other is further information on our approach to AI. Please note that all of the links that we share here will also appear in the email you'll get in about an hour with the follow-up survey. Really don't want to distract you from this demo. So let's go into a search demonstration. So I'm going to go to JSTOR homepage, and I'm going to make my screen bigger for you. It's at 110. And the first thing I want to do is to log in. And so that's this button in the top corner of the page. Right now, I'm not authenticated through any institution, so I'm going to click Login. I do have the option, if my institution has opted in for this, to log in with Google or Microsoft. I can also choose Find My Institution, and that would take me to the portal that my institution has created for me to get to JSTOR. But if I already have an account like I do, I can just use my username and password and log right in. The same thing would happen if you already have a personal account with Google or Microsoft. If you don't and need to register, you can register right here below this login button. So now, after I log in, my institutional access, it says access provided by JSTOR Education. That is the little institution the JSTOR team has created so we can do these demos for you. And then if you were doing this, you would see your own personal name here. We as a team use this for our team workspace. So now we're on the main page of JSTOR, and I can begin typing my search query. And again, I'm going to do a rather broad search query. We're going to do community murals today. And yes, I am spelling it right. And I purposefully am not putting these in quotation marks because I want to see that word community and murals throughout my snippets, just to see what I've got. And as you can see, I've gotten a lot of results. If I have access to a lot of images, they will appear here in this little ribbon. But do note that we also have images in the refined results sidebar. It's the same amount that will appear in the ribbon. I happen to have access to ArtStore because my institution subscribes to ArtStore on JSTOR. So some of my ArtStore images are showing up here. One thing I can do right away is I can save an item to my workspace, an individual item. So you can see here this button, Save to Workspace. This one I've already previously saved to a folder because you see that it's a darker flag than this one. But I'm going to save this again, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it Community. And this is my community folder. So I'm working on ideas about community and murals. If I would like to now scroll down and look at my snippets, I can see the word murals and community throughout. I can also see other words that might be of interest to me, like apartheid, if I'm interested in murals about that, Latino youths. If I would like to save several things at once, I can use these check boxes. In images, they appear in the upper part of the image. In other content, they'll appear here along the side. And I have the option to either cite or save these items. So I'm going to save a few. And again, it's really easy to delete things from your workspace after you save them. So it's kind of easy. So my word community is right here. And I'm going to click Save. And as you can see, it was saved to community. Now, I'm going to decide that I want to limit my search to just journals and books now. And I think I would like to choose another keyword here. And so I'm going to choose the word urban in order to limit my search results. So now I've got far fewer, and it's kept those limits that I've created. The journal and book chapter choices I've already made as filters stay there as my word urban. If you look at the top of the screen, my word urban appears with the and Boolean operator in front of it, and community and murals appear together. So now as I scroll through, I can see the word murals and I can see the word urban appearing in my snippets. I think this is really, really valuable because it allows me to continue to explore and continue to add keywords. And that and Boolean operator is right there. If I'm teaching with this, I want to point that out to a student because they can understand the power of this operator. Now I'd like to take us into an individual item. This individual item is a journal article. And one of the first things I like to do when I go into an item, it's helpful for me, is to reveal the thumbnails. In this case, I see this is only a 5-page article. There's no images. This kind of helps me begin to suss out, is this going to be a good assignment for my students? Are they going to feel like they can read this in one evening's assignment? I also, if you notice, have the ability to open up each of these drop downs. One of them, very handy, is my search matches. So I can go directly to the page where my search matches are more prevalent. And if I want to go back into this document and let's say search for the word urban, I can also do that as a way of checking my search matches, and it will take me to every page where the word urban appears. This also helps me evaluate the resource. Opening this accordion, I now have references that I can look up and make decisions about whether I want to look further at any of the references this author has cited. And then this one, I love this one. It's really handy. This is that cited by that I mentioned. So these are items in JSTOR, either book chapters or journal articles that reference this particular item. And like I said before, this really helps a student kind of dive into that academic conversation. Further down, we have the related text section. And in this case, because it really is about murals, we have some related images as well. In fact, 2 pages of related images. So this is what an item page can reveal for you if you're looking at a journal. Let me go back to results. And I'm going to limit just to books because there's one thing I really want to point out about book chapters. So my results have yielded nearly 3,000 book chapters. If I open up this open access book chapter, we have a lot of great open access books on JSTOR, by the way. One thing I want to point out is this is chapter 9, right, of this book. Now, because these are scholarly monographs, one of the valuable aspects of looking at a book is that I can actually see the full table of contents here in the sidebar. And this can allow me to move to different chapters. But one thing valuable to point out to students is that I also have access to the foreword, preface, and some earlier chapters. And since scholarly monographs often build on an idea or expand on an idea, and that preface or that foreword first chapter sometimes really articulate the idea well, this can be a helpful starting point for students if they come across a book chapter that meets their search criteria. They may want to look at some of those early parts of the book. They can also just save the index if they'd like to their workspace in order to have a better understanding of the content of that book if they want to go further in that research. So I'm going to save my chapter 9 here and go back to the results, because now I want to remove those filters and let's look at some of the primary sources. What I recommend when you're reviewing primary sources is looking one type at a time. So in looking at serials, you can see that we've got some serials that are historical and from various collections. This is part of Independent Voices, and this is from Black America. This is from the American Prison Newspapers collection, really an interesting collection that goes back into the 19th century. And then in addition, we have other collections, this one, Peace Journalists. So these serials can really be a way to dive into conversations that are contemporary to a particular time. Looking at the images, again, because I have ArtStore, I have access to this amazing Timothy Drescher community mural section. But if I want to see content from other collections, I can choose these as well, just clicking on any other collections that I would like to see. And so that is images. And let me take the bar back up, remove images, and remove all my filters, excuse me. So documents are quite often really interesting elements. Books quite often are things like dissertations and master's theses provided by various institutions around the world. Audio and video, let's look at those two together. We've just got 2 items in my search results. Now, don't be discouraged if you see where it says image preview not available. There's nothing wrong with this record. It just means that the contributor hasn't given us an image yet to include with this audio file. Gives you the sense of the duration and the collection. And that same thing with this video file. I'll open this up so that you can see. This is a rather long video, but luckily I have access to the transcripts. So I can do the good old Control Find and find my keywords in the transcript and make a decision about whether this is something that I would like to save to my community murals folder. So I'm doing that now. Before I go back and demonstrate, show you more about the workspace, I want to take a minute and talk about the browse menu. So we've been looking at all these primary sources. They all live within collections. You can search all collections, open collections, or just ArtStore collections. So for example, if I want to search just for open collections and I'm looking for murals, I can come down here to filter the search by murals, and this will give me collections with the word murals in the collection description. And in this case, these are all open collections. I could do the same search with ArtStore or with all collections. And this is a wonderful way to discover this Cleveland Public Library collection, for example. Wonderful way to discover collections that are very focused on a particular topic. And the collection description can give you more information about that. So I wanted to be sure to point that out to you before going back to our slide deck and taking us to talking about the workspace. Let's discuss how we can work with what we have saved in your workspace. I just demonstrated the various points in your search where you can save content. Now I want to show you what you can do with that content, both in terms of organizing your research and sharing or presenting content. Your workspace is a place to store, add notes, organize, present, download, or share the content that you've curated. We've been developing the workspace for several years now. Like many innovations on JSTOR, it's based on user feedback. One thing we learned is that people want to be able to download an item, not only from the search results, but also from their folder of items. We came to understand that the ability to move freely within a presentation of what you have in a folder is a valuable tool, both for pedagogy and for research. So now you can launch into a presentation or comparison from any item in your folder. And finally, if you have your own images that you want to work with side by side with what you found on JSTOR, you can now do that and share that work with others in your workspace folder. You have a lot of flexibility for how to share your research. If you want to present images, you can download just the images that are in your folder. It automatically does just the images for PowerPoint. You can also download the images in your folder to a zip file. To download a full list of what's in your folder, you can use the PDF download option, which I'll demonstrate. The PDF download option is a great way for students to give you an update on their research, because that gives you a snapshot of what they're working on that particular due date. So they can download a PDF and send it to you in order to meet an assignment milestone. And then you will be able to see a full list of what they've got and help them figure out where the gaps are in their research. I think one of the wonderful things about the Workspace folder system is that you can share a folder once in your learning management system, and that URL does not change. This is useful both in teaching and for research. So as you add to the folder or edit it, those folks at your institution that you shared the link to your folder with will see your folder in its updated form. For example, you could share a parent folder that contains subfolders of content at the start of the semester and add to it as needed each week or each unit that you cover. Your students can see those updates. If they make a copy of a folder that you shared, they will see that it has been updated within their copy as well. So they can go and create a fresh new copy if they want to have all your updated content. If you ever want to stop sharing, it's very easy to turn off that link sharing by clicking on the share button again. Because workspace folders have become very flexible this year, you can really capitalize on that ability to jump from item to item. So say I'm in the last 3 minutes of class and I want to remind my students about a reading that I want them to read before the next class. Currently, I have on my screen an image of Helen Frankenthaler painting, and I can quickly pull up the gendered reception article and say, this is what you should be reading this weekend. And I could even page through it page by page and point out particular passages I want them to analyze closely. And I can do that in those last few minutes of class, thus reinforcing that assignment with my students and answering any questions that might come up. I find the ability to search within my workspace, and I'm sorry if I'm laughing, but my workspace is rather large. Search within my workspace incredibly helpful. This means that I don't have to start from scratch with every related idea that I come up with. I can see what is already saved, and I can copy it. I can move that item or duplicate it and put it in another folder. There is no limit to the number of folders and items that a particular item can be in. And so this is a very handy way, if I've been teaching a 101 course, to use that material to expand to teach a 301 course next semester. When we first rolled out reordering items with a drag and drop, you could really only do that one item at a time. But now, once you click on the box for the first item, you automatically see the move or delete buttons appear for you. And you can then click on subsequent items and either move them all at once or delete them all at once if that's what you need to do. This spring, we added this new beta feature that allows you to upload your own images. We know that scholars sometimes take images of their own research if they've been on a site visit or have been doing any kind of archaeological dig, and they want to be able to show that to students or to just have that work side by side with the scholarship around it. So you can now upload images alone, just images, to your workspace. And I'll show you more about that in a minute. Okay, let's go into the demonstration. I am going to my workspace. So I go to my own name and I can choose workspace, or I can go directly to the workspace button here on my screen. Here in my workspace, I have that community folder that I've been working on with you. I have this orchids and botanical folders. And then I want to point out a couple of things. I've got course folders. Now this is that, so for example, here's my fall 2024 folder, public art. I'm getting ahead of myself, excuse me. Let me take a minute and just give you a tour of the whole page before I jump into something. Here's where I can search. I'm now looking at everything in gallery view. So these are all of my folders and then individual images beneath that. I can do the same thing in list view. Importantly, for any of the, see the list view is a little bit cleaner. For any of these folders, these 3 vertical dots are a very handy way for me to navigate a folder. From here, I could rename my fall 2024 public art folder. I can add a folder description. I can move it. I could duplicate the entire folder. I can present. I can export to PowerPoint, PDF, zip, or share. Let me go right into link sharing. So as I mentioned before, if you're adjunct at 2 different institutions, you can be authenticated through both those institutions. And here I could decide that I want to share with these 2 institutions, and I can click copy link and put that in my learning management system so that my students could see this folder. Now, I'm going to go back to gallery view just because I enjoy looking at it better. And I'm going to point out my public art course. So let's say I'm teaching fall 2024, a course on public art. And I've now got week 2, week 1, and I haven't started week 3 yet. But I can share this folder with my students, and just by copying this link whenever I'd like, and they will be able to see these 3 subfolders. And as week 3 fills out, they'll see that. And then when I do week 4, they'll see that, etc. I can also share with them individual items, not in folders, not in subfolders. So, for example, let's look at my graffiti folder. In this folder, I have a video, and I have actually written a little note saying that this is a video file of an interview about the collaborative process. I have here journal articles, and here is one of those independent voice publications. And then further down, you can see I've got some images, as well as another a book chapter. Each of these I can export in a PDF format. And what's wonderful is that the guiding questions that I have put in the folder appear at the top of the export, as well as my descriptions of each of the items. So this is something that I can, if I'm a student and I'm doing some research, I can share this with my faculty member with these guiding questions, or I can share this as a handout with my students. I also have the ability here to rearrange items. So let's say I want to move this item and this item and this item, and I'd like to move them further down the line. And there they are. I've moved all 3 of them, and they're further down on the page. Let's say I want to move this one over here. I can move an individual item. So it's very easy to rearrange as you're curating this content. One last thing I want to point out is the ability to upload your own items. Here are items that we have uploaded to our folder using this upload button. From here, I can drag and drop files, or I can select up to 10 files from my folder in my computer. They can't be larger than 10 megabytes, but that's a pretty large file. And once I have uploaded them, they appear here in this uploaded items. If I'd like to add them to a folder, I can easily do that. I can add this one to my orchids and botanical folder, click add. And now when I go, and if I want to delete anything, I can do that this way as well. I don't really want to, but I can add in bulk if I'd like. So if I go back to my saved items, my orchid and botanicals has that item that I added to the folder. And I could, from any of these items, in any folder, not just a folder that I have added items in, go directly into present. So I can present this particular image, and I can put side by side with it my live image and a detail that I took. And I can also add this kind of wonderful guy. Now, notice that this is a detail of my photograph. It's so easy to do details. So I just go and zoom into where I want, and I click Save to Workspace, choose Save Current Zoom, and I'm adding that to that same folder, and I click Save. Now, I can close this item. I can close out. Notice that I can zoom in on anything. I can close out any of these items, and if I refresh my page, you should see my cute little squirrel guy appear right there. And I might decide that I want to move him after that one. Before I stop this demonstration, I want to point out a couple of things. You might have noticed this box in the corner of the screen. This allows me to immediately chat with one of our colleagues on the support team, a real person. You can chat your question in there and they will address it. If you see that this box is small, either you have made it small yourself or it's after business hours, If you click on it, you can send us an email directly here from the platform, and the support team will answer you via email during the next business day. What is wonderful is the support team is available during business hours, Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, but they're also going to be available to you without you leaving the platform to answer questions. The other thing I want to point out is you can get directly to our support page from any page on JSTOR by clicking on this question box, this question mark. This takes me to support, and I could type a question here. Also from the support page, I could chat with my colleagues on the support team. But I want to point out a couple other things on this page. First, the teaching resources. Among your teaching resources, you have slide decks for reuse. You have one on working with images on JSTOR and another one on research on JSTOR. When you click on these links, it invites you to make a copy. Once you've made a copy, it's yours. You can add or delete any slides that you'd like. In the slides that we've made for you, we've included key points you may want to make, as well as suggested student activities, and links to further reading. So hopefully this is a way for you, whether you have 10 minutes in a class or an hour with a class, to give students some research methods tips. You can use our pre-made slides to get you started on that project to make it that much easier. Also from the support site, you can get to all of our tutorials, including the annual updates webinar that we've just done this as the third one, and our whole playlist of how to use JSTOR on YouTube. And things that I didn't cover in this webinar are actually covered in short videos in this playlist, like advanced search and sharing workspace content or using shared workspace content. All of that is available to you on this YouTube playlist that you can access through our support site. The annual updates webinars page is always also on this playlist, and you can see the one we did on images as well as the one we're doing now listed on this page. So now I'd like to take us back to our slide deck, and I think I've covered all the resources. So why don't we go ahead and turn our cameras back on and address questions that you might have. Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Dana. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, thanks so much, Dana. We did get a number of questions during the webinar. Let's start with a question about access, about whether you need to be associated with an institution to gain access to JSTOR.
Nicole, can you address that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So you don't need to be associated with an institution to gain access to JSTOR. You can create a free account, and we can include the link for that in our resources after the webinar. And you're able to read many of our articles on the platform for free. About 85% of our content is available through that program.
Yeah, that's so good to know, because I'm always meeting people who say, oh, I loved JSTOR when I was in school, but now that I'm graduating, I'm missing it. And I'm always saying, go check it out. There's a lot of great open content.
Great, there's a couple of questions about Workspace. If you would like to reiterate how to find the ArtStore folders that have been transferred over to JSTOR, the ArtStore Workspace folders, sorry, that have been transferred over to JSTOR.
I'll be happy to take that one, Nicole. As a former ArtStore person, this is dear to my heart. So folks who had image groups on ArtStore, your folders are in your workspace now. So we have automatically moved those over, and you have the ability to go to, once you've logged in, to go to Workspace, and you will see those folders either in gallery view or in list view. And some of these folders that you even see here are ones that I actually had in ArtStore and have been moved over to JSTOR. So it's really kind of fun to see your old friends when you open your workspace.
Great, thank you. Another question about the uploaded images feature in Workspace. If you can talk about whether there's a storage limit on that content that you upload.
Nicole, can you address that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no limit to the workspace at this time. In terms of individual item limits, you can drag and drop or select up to 10 image files from your computer to upload. JPEG and PNG image files are no larger, than 10 megabytes. Each are supported. Keep in mind that this personal upload feature is in beta, so the limits may change.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Before we go on with questions, I did want to confirm, since we have several questions about it, about everyone will be getting a copy of a video of this webinar within several days. And also, if you don't want to wait that long to get the emailed video, which usually comes in just a couple work days, we do post the video recording on YouTube, usually the next day. So probably if you look at the JSTOR channel tomorrow, you will see it, or very shortly after that. So yes, you will all receive a video emailed to you, or you can find it yourself on the JSTOR YouTube channel. So there are a couple of questions about search. What is the best way to search for open access collections? Can you have that as a search facet, or how do you find open access content on JSTOR?
The best way to find open access collections that have been shared on JSTOR is to go to Browse, then Collections, and then go to the Open bar. And here you can see all of the collections that are open collections. Each one of them, each item in the collection should have something, let me just click on it, should have something that helps you understand your rights and responsibilities with that, and that will show up in the terms and copyright. Remember, JSTOR does not own any of the items on JSTOR. They're owned by the contributors. So if you need to use something in a publication, you would need to contact that contributor.
Great, thank you. Another question about ArtStore content on JSTOR. Someone asked for clarification about, I think you said something like, because I have ArtStore, I can see this content. Can you explain what that means? Since we did say ArtStore is fully absorbed into JSTOR, but what does it mean to have ArtStore?
So every institution subscribes to different content. And you can, ArtStore is a subscription that allows you to view ArtStore content onto JSTOR. And that subscription is paid through your institution. So if I can always see all the open ArtStore content, but unless my institution has ArtStore, I can't use the ArtStore content. So that would be contacting your librarian to see if that's a possibility. Even if your institution has no other JSTOR content, if you have ArtStore content, you can see it on JSTOR.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if there's anything else. Someone did ask if you could share how to access the architecture category, so how you can refine your results to architecture.
Yeah, do they mean images or all content?
You could show both.
Okay, so you think about the topic that you're talking about. So if I want to do Gothic, which is something I can spell easily here, with all content, and I want to get just to architecture, if for images, I would go to the image button, and then I would scroll down to classification and choose architecture and city planning. And that would give me images of architecture. If I want to do, let me remove all those filters and start over. If I want to do other content that is not just images, I would put architecture in my search term. And then that would give me information about Gothic architecture. For example, a review of a book called Gothic Architecture, and I could go at it that way. Nicole, can you think of another way that you might suggest searching just for a type like that?
I think that what you suggested would be probably the easiest and best way to go about it.
On a sort of related question about search, when you do a search in JSTOR, are the results that you see limited to the content for which your institution subscribes, or could you possibly see things that you don't have access to in a search?
So if I scroll down to the bottom, it automatically, the refined results sidebar bottom, I hope you all can see this in the corner of the screen. In the lower corner of the screen, I have the radio button content I can access. If I click on everything, then that would give me content that I may not necessarily have access to, but it helps me know it's in JSTOR. And I may not necessarily have access to it through my institution or as a private subscriber, or what do we call those, Nicole? Not private subscribers, people with JPass?
Individual.
And independent researcher.
Independent researchers, thank you. But it will automatically default to content you can access. So it's a little less frustrating that way. You don't stumble upon a firewall preventing you.
Great. I realize we are about at time here. Maybe we could do one more question. And I want to also let you all know, I'm not sure if we mentioned this, but if there are questions that we didn't get to that apply generally, we will send questions and answers in that follow-up email that we'll send out within a few days. So if we didn't get to read your question, we will either get back to you individually or you will see it in the follow-up email. So one more question about presentation mode in Workspace. Does presentation mode in a Workspace folder work as a slide viewing application, something that you could open and use when giving a class or a public talk?
Yes, especially if you're let me find one that has just a lot of images. Especially if you're going to be going item by item. Dana, I'm trying to rush because I know we're at the end of our, especially if I'm going into present mode here, and I can go item by item this way with this arrow in the lower corner. There's my detail. And I can show the item detail or hide the item detail. And if I want to make a comparison, I can do that live. I am trying to go too quickly. Please excuse me. I can do that live as well. I think this requires you to be connected to the internet. So if you want to back up, I would, if you're going to go to a conference and you might have wonky internet, I would definitely download to PowerPoint. But this is a wonderful way to be able to answer questions during the conference and to be able to work live during the conference. If you do feel like you've got great internet, it does allow for a much more interactive experience.
Great, thank you for showing that, Dana. We are at time. Please, everyone, remember to answer the survey if you can. That will pop up when you close GoTo, or will come to you also in an email in an hour. Look out for that email from us in a few days with the video recording. Thank you so much for attending. And thanks, Dana.
You. Thanks, Nicole and Elizabeth. Really appreciate your help today.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.